Spider-Man 3 is the third movie in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, and the last one in this Sam Raimi franchise. Now, I remember this movie came out when I was around 13 years old, and I couldn't have been more excited for this movie. As you all know, Spider-Man's my favorite superhero. I loved Spider-Man. I loved Spider-Man 2 even more, so going into this movie, my expectations were sky high. I remember when I was 13 and I saw Spider-Man 3 for the first time, I did thoroughly enjoy it. As I got older though, and as I, began to appreciate movies a little bit more and understand them a little bit more, I quickly began to understand why a lot of people don't like Spider-Man 3. I can say that because I can say I am not one of those people. I said in my last video that Spider-Man 2 is probably the best Spider-Man movie we have ever gotten. In my opinion though, Spider-Man 3 is probably the worst Spider-Man movie we've ever gotten. So the movie takes place sometime after the events of Spider-Man 2. We see that, Peter, he's still Spider-Man, he's still saving the city, but he's now found that balance, he's managing his life well again, he's at the top of his class. He and Mary Jane are still dating, he's of course still madly in love with her, and he is even planning to propose to her. But as it has been established, Spider-Man's always gonna have enemies, and now he has a new enemy in Harry. Harry, of course, found out that Peter was Spider-Man at the end of Spider-Man 2, and now he feels he needs to go out to avenge his father himself. This consists of Harry transforming himself into the new Goblin, giving himself his Goblin suit, his own form of weaponry, a snowboard glider. I will say, I did really love how Harry looked as a new Goblin. It was really cool. He looked like he was going to be a sweet villain for this movie. So they do battle throughout New York City. Peter tries to convince Harry, like, you need to listen to me. I didn't kill your father. He killed himself trying to kill me, but Harry is just refusing to listen to him. And then the fight ends with Peter knocking out Harry, and at this point, Harry has suffered amnesia from this head injury, and now he has absolutely no memory of, who Spider-Man is, how his father died, his vendetta towards Peter. In Harry's mind, everything's just kind of easier now. He feels more free, he's friends with Peter again, friends with MJ, but at the same time, this was something that I didn't like about this movie. In my opinion, part of what makes Spider-Man 3 such a mess is one of the many subplots that it has in this movie. Harry's amnesia is one of them. I feel like this movie found a different way to, incorporate him into the story, whether it was to get revenge on Peter or some other way. I think this movie could have been done better. Another subplot that we have to deal with in this movie is that of Flint Marko. He has recently escaped prison. He's trying to find a way to get money to help his daughter overcome an illness that she's dealing with. And then one night when he's on the run from the cops, he runs into this sand particle accelerator that these scientists are experimenting on. One of the things that I really hated though is the fact that they're tracking, the experiment, and one goes, hey, there's a change in the mass, and the other scientist just goes, it's probably a bird, it'll fly away when we start it up, no need to check, no way to see if we're gonna mutate something, just let's continue with it. Literally, these people could have taken 5 minutes to see if the change in the silicon mass was anything serious. They never stopped to think that maybe something like that could be. And it is, because that's what turns Flint Marko into the Sandman. Now, I will say, however, although I didn't really like how they, turned the Sandman into the Sandman, I did like him in this movie as the villain, simply because this is a much more personal villain for Spider-Man, because we discovered that the Sandman was in fact Uncle Ben's real killer. And what I do love seeing is the fact that Peter is so conflicted now, because this is a much more personal thing for him. You can tell he wants to kill Flint Marko for what happened to Uncle Ben, because really, anybody would want to. And what I love seeing is with Mary Jane, she now becomes a little bit more worried about Peter because she doesn't want him to turn into someone that he's not. And that soon begins to happen when an alien symbiote that has crash landed on Earth binds itself with Peter's suit. This gives Peter a black-colored Spidey suit, which also has made him a lot more powerful. But what everyone soon begins to see as a result of that is a big change in Peter's attitude. He's a lot more aggressive toward things, he's a lot more angry towards things, and even one night, when he discovers where Flint Marko's whereabouts are, he goes out in his black-suited Spider-Man suit and he tries to kill him, and for a while it appears that he does kill him, and the whole time Peter's just feeling like, you know, he did the right thing by that. But Aunt May even says, like, revenge is a poison, it can turn you into something ugly. Like I say, it's from this point forward is when the movie is really starting to do way too much. For starters, it deals with Peter, who, you know, has been wearing that suit for a while. It's affecting his personality. He exposes his photography rival Eddie Brock for using a fake photo, so Peter can now be in line for a promotion that they were competing with. Now let me touch on Topher Grace as Eddie Brock. First of all, I'm gonna say this right now. I think Topher Grace is awesome. I absolutely love him in That 70s Show. I think he's a really funny guy. I think he's very talented. But in this movie, honestly, he just annoyed the shit out of me. There wasn't anything about him that I could originally get behind as a character. I mean, you know, he thinks that, you know, Gwen Stacy is his girlfriend, even though he had one date with her. You know, he gets so mad at Peter for exposing him, even though he technically did cheat. There's just nothing about him that really screamed a villain to me. I'll touch more on that later on. It's also around this point that because Mary Jane is feeling alienated by Peter, she starts spending time with Harry, and it's around this time Harry gets his memory back. So now he makes it his plan to destroy Peter, you know, really make him suffer before he kills him. This includes him forcing Mary Jane to tell Peter that, hey, I'm breaking up with you because I fell in love with someone else, and then Harry telling Peter, I was the guy. And this of course leads to Peter confronting Harry. The two of them fight again, and this time Peter defeats Harry by literally throwing a fucking grenade at his face. And then one night Peter decides to take out Gwen Stacy on a date to get revenge on Mary Jane, to make her jealous. You know, this was after we got that montage of Peter just, you know, going through New York City, you know, pointing to everybody, you know, dancing really awkwardly, and everyone's just staring at him. You could tell the movie was trying to play that for laughs, but I gotta say, watching that scene every single time, I get so uncomfortable seeing it. I don't know how they got Tobey Maguire to go along with it. At that point, I probably would have read the script. I probably would have looked at Sam Raimi or whoever it was. I would have said, all right, you know what? I'm not doing this. Guys, we can do better. We can do better here. And getting into Gwen Stacy, it really didn't feel like she needed to be in this movie. Literally, the movie just has her in here to try to set up this sort of love triangle between her, Mary Jane, and Peter. She's literally in this movie for a grand total of about 5 minutes, and you can't help but wonder, if she was taken out of this movie, would it have made it worse? In my opinion, it probably would have made it better. But it's after this night, even after Peter ends up hitting Mary Jane, he realizes that, yeah, this symbiote's turning me into a douche. So he goes to this church, he tries to remove it, and he eventually is, because it hears this church bell, which I guess weakens it, so now he can remove it. But then the symbiote finds Eddie Brock, and now it binds to him, which turns him into Venom. And here's the thing, Topher Grace as Venom, that didn't work for me. I don't see Topher Grace as a supervillain. I did like the overall design of Venom. I thought he looked cool, but one of the things that I hated is that every time Venom talked, you know, Eddie would peel back the Venom face and you'd see his normal face talking to whoever it was. It doesn't make sense to me. That Venom face was scary, creepy, and awesome. Why wouldn't you just leave it there? Eventually Venom finds Sandman, who survived his fight with Spider-Man, and he tells him, it's like, hey, you want him dead, I want him dead. Let's do it together. He won't have a chance. The two of them kidnap Mary Jane, they hold her hostage, and they tell him, it's like, come on Spider-Man, come get your girl. Peter tries to recruit Harry to come to help him because he knows he can't take the both of them by himself, but you know, Harry obviously just tells him to fuck off. And then comes another moment that just did not make any sense to me. Harry's butler Bernard approaches him and he tells him, like, you know what? I've been keeping this secret for too long. The night your father died, I cleaned his wound. What killed him was his glider. There's no doubt he died by his own hand. I'm just watching this like, you literally knew that this whole time, and now you're telling him? Harry has been wanting Spider-Man dead since the end of the first movie. So it's been, what, a few years since then? And you waited till now? I'm honestly surprised Harry didn't kill him. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if I was Harry, I probably would've. So Spider-Man goes to fight Venom and the Sandman. They're just kicking his ass. They're too much for him. It actually looks like they're gonna kill him. But luckily, Harry shows up in the new Goblin suit, and he comes to help Spider-Man, saves him from dying. It's like, alright, let's take out these fuckers together. And I will say, it is here when the final conflict does get, you know, a little more entertaining. You know, it's nice seeing Harry and Peter work together, because you really see just how good these two are together. together. Harry even makes a few jokes as this fight's going on. It actually helped the movie because, you know, we hadn't really gotten much comedy beforehand, which kind of sucks because, you know, it's a movie about Spider-Man, who's one of the funniest superheroes ever. Soon Venom has Spider-Man tied up again. He's about to kill him with Harry's glider, but Harry jumps in the way and gets impaled by it. After that, Peter remembers what the symbiote's weakness was, and he starts, you know, banding all these metal pipes together to weaken it. He's able to remove Eddie from the symbiote, throw a pumpkin bomb at the symbiote, but Eddie jumps back in because he's an idiot trying to rebond with it, which kills the symbiote and Eddie. But now it's right in this moment, Spider-Man confronts Sandman once again, and now Sandman finally explains to Peter exactly what happened that night. He explains that his daughter was dying, he needed money, all he wanted was the car, and at one point he didn't see his partner running to him, which startled him, so he accidentally pulled the trigger and killed Uncle Ben. Sandman tells Peter, it's like, I did a terrible thing to you. I didn't choose to be this. I didn't want to be this. My daughter's all I have. And now that Peter has heard this story, now that he sees where Sandman was coming from, he finally does what is probably the strongest thing that he could do, and forgives him. But now Mary Jane and Peter, they see that Harry is really badly wounded from his glider, and now they see that he is gonna die, but in the final words, Harry tells both of them, it's like, you guys are my best friends, I wouldn't have had this any other way, and then he dies. Which I will say was definitely a sad moment when it happened, but it didn't hit me as hard as I wanted it to. And I think a lot of that is simply because I did not like the way they handled Harry Osborn in this movie. You know, he's a villain, then he's good, then he's a villain again, then he's good again. It just, I don't know. Like I said, I feel they could have done that better. So all in all, Spider-Man 3 for me is just a big mess. There are things to like about this movie. I mean, yeah, visually it still looks great. The returning characters, they do a good job for what they need to do. The action scenes when they happen, for the most part, are fun. The problem is way too much happens in this movie. The Sandman was a good villain for this movie, but realistically, he should have been the only villain for this movie. I feel they should have done something very different for Harry. I don't think Venom needed to be in this movie at all, and if they were going to put him in this movie, it should have been someone other than Topher Grace playing him. Gwen Stacy is in this movie for a grand total of 5 minutes, and the sole reason she's here is to set up a love triangle. The symbiote was cool. I did kind of like seeing that it turned Peter into kind of a dick, and he has to overcome that, but really could have done without that montage of him dancing in the streets. In the end, Spider-Man 3 for me is just a really disappointing movie. So there it is. I've talked about the 3 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. Now I'll be moving on to the Amazing Spider-Man movies starring Andrew Garfield. Very excited to be talking about those. I'll give spoiler talks for those hopefully soon, maybe within the next week. But for now, that's all I gotta say. So guys, thank you so much for watching my video. Don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.